Hello and welcome to Adweek Together. It is Friday, May 1st, 2020, TGIF. I am Stephanie Paterik, Executive Editor of Adweek, and this is the daily show where we meet with you, our community, to talk about how we're all navigating a new world and a world that's changing really rapidly. If you are in marketing, media, or sports, you are going to want to join this conversation today. My guest is Erika Nardini. She is CEO of Barstool Sports. She also has the distinction of being one of Adweek's most powerful women in sports. So Erika, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So for the uninitiated, for those who aren't familiar with Barstool Sports, tell us about the company.
Yeah, look, Barstool Sports, I think, is one of the most interesting, dynamic media, content, lifestyle companies out there. We started as a blog. Barstool Sports started as a blog in 2004 by a guy named Dave Portnoy. And so if you think about it, we're an older media company. We've grown into being one of the biggest, most vibrant, most creative media companies in sports, lifestyle, and entertainment. We are on every single platform imaginable. We make content that helps people escape and gives them a laugh. And we look to connect with our audiences in a way that's very real and very authentic. We have about 70 personalities at Barstool Sports. We have a very, very big podcasting platform. We're a top five, six publisher in the world of podcasts. We have all of the top major sports podcasts. So we're very big, we're a digital first company. We believe in new media and, we look to get a laugh is basically what we do at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I know, the company actually started as a print publication back in the early 2000s, right? And then made the pivot in the late 2000s to digital. I think a lot of people associate it with its digital content these days. Can you tell us about your audience? How many people are coming to your site, and what's the makeup of that audience?
Yep. So we're one of the fastest growing. We're one of the fastest growing sports and entertainment companies in social and in media in general. So if you look at our audience has changed really dramatically over the last 17 years, right? Where when Dave started Barstool, it was in Boston, it was as a newspaper, it was mostly for guys. Now, when you look at us, like I'll give you an example. Last week, we added 500,000 followers on TikTok. So right now we're reaching, we reach about 90 million people every single month. A large percentage of them are guys. A large number of them are women. We certainly reach out to sports fans. We reach people who love entertainment. We have a different audience profile based on each platform that we're on. So the people who like us and follow Barstool Sports on Instagram is a different crowd than the people who are listening to Pardon My Take, which is the #1 sports podcast in the world, which is different than the people who follow Barstool Ria on TikTok. So, predominantly we reach a young audience. We reach an audience that is digital and mobile. We reach an audience who is looking to be entertained and to find an escape from their daily life. And we're reaching an audience in large part who likes sports and or is interested in sports and pop culture.
And we're going to talk more about how the changing sports landscape and the lack of sports seasons is affecting your brand. I'm really interested to get into that. Curious, before we go there, what is your revenue model and who are your biggest advertisers? And also, how has that maybe changed in the last month?
Yeah, so we have a very diverse business, which makes us very different. There's a couple things that set us apart outside of the content, which I think sets us apart leaps and bounds from our competition. We make a lot of original content. The content that we make is very relatable. We distribute it constantly and concurrently. We're very creative. We're very nimble. We're very fast. Our business model follows that. So we have an advertising business model. We work with big blue chip brands. If you think about Anheuser-Busch or Cash App, General Mills, Kraft, Coors. So we work with big brands, Gallo, across all major categories. We have a very big commerce business. So we sell t-shirts, we sell soft goods, We make a lot of apparel on our own at Barstool. We have a licensing business, so we have a top 3 flavored vodka in the world, which is called Pink Whitney, which was born out of our hockey podcast, which is called Spit and Chicklets. We have a live events business. We had a subscription business until recently, which we opened up once the pandemic hit so that everyone could enjoy the content. So we have a diverse business model that's really split between advertising, commerce, licensing.
Are there any other, I'm wondering, what are any of the major shifts that you've made in the last month? You mentioned your membership model. Did you open that up? Is it completely free or select content?
Completely free. So we had a product called Barstool Gold. We put a lot of original content inside of Barstool Gold. We opened that up in March. I think the first or second week in March, we refunded everyone who had subscribed for the year. We opened up Barstool Gold. We started to release, we created a documentary that we had put behind a paywall. We released that. And we really felt like we only want to give our fans a product that we're really behind, and a product that, we knew people were really looking for content. They were looking for something to do in the pandemic. So that's one thing we did. The other things, we're seeing changes obviously in the ad market, whereby the big marquee brands who, typically our sales force looks to, create partnerships that are multi-year. They're very integrated. There's branded entertainment, there's media, there's live events, there's all sorts of facets of those partnerships. A lot of those brands are on hold. And the brands who are advertising right now are different brands than who you would predominantly find on a media platform in the spring, during a spring sports season. So we've really pivoted to looking at how are we approaching direct response brands who are very relevant right now while people are at home. So cleaning supplies, home goods, cooking, food delivery, coffee is a massive category. So we're pivoting to looking at brands who are very, very relevant, telecommuting, teleconferencing. So that's the biggest shift that we're making, is really understanding what's happening in the ad ecosystem. At the same time, we're also really doubling down on our commerce business and really looking to create products that people need and want right now, right? Face buffs are a huge product. Everyone needs to wear a scarf when they go outside. Our fans want to wear a scarf that looks like Barstool Sports or looks like their favorite podcast. We want to make sure we have those and we can ship those to people. So we've done a lot of things like that in the last 6 weeks.
I love these pivots that you're laying out. That's really interesting. And I just want to shout out those of you who are tuning in on LinkedIn right now. I see we have people from Boston, Kuwait, London, all over. If you have a question for Erika, please drop it in the comments on LinkedIn, and I'll pick a couple out and throw them her way. So Erika, for me personally, when the moment that the kind of extent of the coronavirus crisis really hit me was when the NBA decided to cancel its season. For me, that was like kind of the big wake up call. I wonder, for you as the CEO of a sports media site, what was going through your head as the league started canceling their seasons?
Yeah, it was hard. I was in Las Vegas, and we were working with Penn National. We were going to do a 4-city tour for March Madness. So we were going to do live streaming coverage of the tournament. We were going to go on location. We would create a lot of energy around sports betting. So for me, the moment was, I agree with you on the NBA. I think when we saw March Madness kind of become silent, and there was really no discussion around what was going to happen, but you knew what was going to happen, which is that the games were not going to be played. When you saw the NHL, cancel the remainder of their season, I think it's hard right now because I think there's two issues. One is, there's a lot of uncertainty about if and when people can come back, and if people are going to come back to do the things that they did pre-coronavirus. Are you going to get into an arena or a stadium with 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 other people? That's a really big question. If you look at Ohio State, I think there's 50,000 there's 50,000 kids. I could be wrong on this, but I think there's 50,000 kids that you would pack into a stadium on Saturday to watch a football game. Like, is that going to happen? So that's one question that we're thinking a lot about, because what are sports going to look like? Now, for us, we're not predominantly an events business. So the bigger question is, can the leagues make it work with their players and with the teams to still broadcast games, even though people can only watch them from home? And will that be more comfortable for consumers to be able to watch from home? And in our case, we can still create coverage because we're watching the same games that they are. So, I would say overall, we have been less affected by the live sporting, the situation with live sports, because we're not a company that is dependent on sports rights. So if there's no live NBA, we still have plenty of things to talk about, because we're not dependent on people watching NBA games on Barstool Sports to come to our site, to engage in our content, to buy our products, to support our advertisers, et cetera. So, in some ways, what we've gone back to is really the roots of Barstool, whereby, when Dave Portnoy started Barstool, or you found Barstool Big Cat or Kevin Clancy, John Feidelberg and others, all they could make content about was what they could find and what they could read. And they had to be original in their perspective and their personality and their take as they created content. So we're going to lean back into that. We're obviously hoping that sports comes back as soon as humanly possible. And, we're ready if sports comes back as quarantined broadcast only events. And eventually, and hopefully when sports comes back as live events.
I have a great question here, actually, along these lines of what we might see in the future as sports tiptoes back. So Ram Iyer asks, do you see a pivot to augmented reality sports with spectators in almost real context engaging with players? I'm wondering if you anticipate tech kind of playing a role in bringing people into the game if they can't be there physically.
I think you're seeing tech win right now, right? Where you look at, this week we had one of our bloggers playing a pro hockey player, and they were, the e-gaming, esports, video games, like supplanting real sports with an electronic version of that is happening right now. You see it with NASCAR. You see it with, we're doing a whole thing on Madden. We're doing a whole bunch of things with NCAA. I think those are great things right now in quarantine. I don't think they replace real sports. I don't think they replace the energy and the excitement and the uncertainty of who's going to win and what's going to happen and the drama and the highs and lows of competition. I don't think that we can replace that. I do think that technology can help people get closer, and they can make up the gap in the short term of just things to do and things to talk about, which we're certainly relying on. But, I think one of my biggest takeaways from this time is just how much Americans love their sports and just how much they are missed. And, I give big credit to all the leagues and the broadcast networks, because they're trying to figure out, like, how soon can we get this stuff back? And I think Americans want it back.
I love that you're talking about emotion. And actually, one of our viewers is talking about it too. Nee Bomthim Com said, are there new emotions or new emotional ways around online sports when there are zero gatherings? So I think, the comment here seems to be that a lot of that emotion around sports comes from the fact that it's this shared experience, it's this group, very visceral activity when you go to a game. How are you guys as a media company, are you thinking about emotion or tapping into the emotion of your readers?
We're pretty emotional if you follow Barstool Sports. So, we've got, I actually think that this is a time where we've really shown, we've launched 30 new shows, almost 40 actually. We've launched 40 new shows in the last 6 weeks. So, I think you can look at traditional media companies or traditional publishers, and they're kind of like retracting and standing still and waiting. And that's just not our DNA. What we've really focused on is, okay, we know people want more content. We know that they're missing sports. We know that they love personalities. we know that we have really funny takes on most anything. So we launched a show 2 weeks ago called Stool Streams. We have two Barstool personalities playing ping pong against one another, and we have another Barstool personality commenting on it. That's an awesome show. That's sports, that's competition, there's emotion that's created. So the two guys playing, PFT commenter is playing Hank, who's another Barstool personality. PFT won't let us move to a new sport until he beats Hank at ping pong. So there's all sorts of storylines that come through that. And so I do think there's new emotions in that, or there's just different ways that those emotions express themselves. Dan Katz, who's one of our biggest, brightest personalities, created a show called the Cat Cave Derby, where he basically races a toy horse racing set with 4 horses on it. And every night on Twitter, around 6:45 p.m., he races the 4 horses. He does the trumpet, he does the announcing, you get to see one of the horses' socks, so. And, now we've launched a merch line that supports the Cat Cave Derby, which is what he calls it. So those aren't real. They're it's funny, it's stupid, it's lighthearted, but it can still tap into, people want to see if Spiral Ham, who's like the shittiest horse on the block, if Spiral Ham can win or not. So I think those things are just human nature, and it's just a matter now of, how do people tap into them?
Yeah, I love the, just the creativity and ingenuity of media companies producing content from home. I mean, this show, I'm coming to you live from my apartment in Brooklyn, and you're coming from your home in New York as well. And I know that your founder and president, Dave Portnoy, I think has done something really interesting with a series that he hosts. He does One Bite pizza reviews. Some of you guys might be familiar with that, where he typically goes around the city, takes a bite of pizza, does a quick review. Very popular. And he's started doing these from his home with frozen pizzas. And actually, I'd love our producer, Nick, can go ahead and play a clip. You guys can see what this is looking like from his home.
Wegmans pizza here. A lot of people saying I give Wegmans a shot. A little something different for the kids back home. Lunchables. Pizza review time. California Pizza Kitchen. A lot of people have been like, CPK, do CPK. So we'll cut, this thing right through it like hot bread on a butter knife. Whoa, it does come with Capri Sun. Sick. Okay, here we go. Pizza review time. California Pizza Kitchen. One bite, everybody knows the rules. Wegmans. All right, one bite, everybody knows the rules. Lunchable. Capri Sun. One bite, everybody knows the rules. California Pizza Kitchen. Wow. Oh, the sauce is strong. The dough stinks. Wow. 8-1. Wegmans, and a pizza that I wouldn't think I like, and a pizza that looked like a loaf of bread going in the oven. The Lunchables itself, I found quite repulsive. I'm going to give a 1.1, and that may be high. Capri Sun's like a 9, always. 4.2, not my favorite. I really thought I was going to love this, not my favorite. California Pizza Kitchen. On to the next part.
Yep. All right. Erika, you're still there. All right. We lost Erika for a moment, but she's back. And glad you all got to see that clip. So Erika, you mentioned TikTok as well. You guys, it seems like you're growing very quickly there. And I've noticed you guys have been doing some really interesting things on Instagram. Can you talk as well about how you are maybe changing your approach to content on social in particular at this moment?
Yeah, so we're doing a lot on social. Dave is a great example. So Dave took pizza reviews. So, his goal was to review every pizza place in New York City. We've now gone nationwide. We have, the single biggest app around pizza in the world called One Bite. Now he's doing frozen pizza reviews. We do it on Barstool, we do it on Instagram, et cetera. Dave's also done 2 other things, which I think are interesting, is, he started day trading. Dave loves sports betting. He loves sports. He's like, there's no sports. There's nothing I can bet on. the stock market is basically gambling, so I'm going to day trade all day. The other thing we've started doing, Dave's doing in particular, is the unboxing. So he's going live 2 to 3 nights a week to do unboxing, whereby people are sending him, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of packages at this point. And like live sports, you're watching someone, you're not really sure what's going to happen. You're not sure what's going to come out of the box. He's doing that live on Instagram, and we're doing that to millions and millions and millions of views. I think the biggest thing we're seeing on social is video matters and live matters. So if you look at, we're seeing a big shift to Instagram, certainly, and Instagram Live. And then we're also seeing so much happening on TikTok where, I think TikTok was on a tear to begin with, but there's something happening in the quarantine where we're seeing most every trend originate from TikTok and then move over to the other social platforms. So I think as people are watching, they're watching on bigger screens because they're home. They're spending more time on video because they're at home, not driving, not commuting, not on the subway, etc. That we're seeing a big shift to video and live video in particular. And so we're trying to reprogram our shows for social around that.
I want to talk to you about tone, because I think that Barstool Sports is really known as an irreverent site, right? And you even have some not safe for work content on the homepage. How have you guys had to change your messaging or your tone at all during this time, either toning it down or because people are working from home, do you have more freedom?
I think, we're an escape for people. So Barstool Sports at its best, gives you a laugh. Like if you hate your day job or your desk job or you're bored and you want to go read a bunch of ridiculous headlines and see a bunch of takes on things, Barstool Sports is a great brand for you. If you don't enjoy our humor, it's not a good brand for you. I would say, I think we try to stay away from politics. We try to stay away from news. We're not journalists. So we're not covering things on the straight and narrow. I think that's actually been appreciated right now because there is so much negativity in the news, and the news is so depressing right now in general. It's also very regurgitated. It's the same all the time. Like I can tune in to Fox, CNN, NBC, CBS in the morning, and I tune in at night, and it's just all coronavirus all the time. So, we always endeavor to be funny. We always endeavor to walk the line, in terms of, hey, what's funny and what's appropriate and what joke will land. And then we try to stay away from stuff that isn't going to make people laugh and that isn't going to provide an escape. So we've stayed pretty true to that. Regardless of the time, I think it's just probably more appreciated now because there's no sports media. So I think you're finding people have nothing to talk about because they can only talk about X's and O's with sports, or you're finding in news media, it's just very negative.
Yeah. And I think you guys are in a really interesting position because you write about the culture around sports, which I think positions you really well. We have not a question, but a comment from Meryl Lord on LinkedIn who said the future belongs to creators and promoters. I want to talk to you about the future because I'm really interested in this idea that this moment in time is making all of our companies stronger and all of us stronger as leaders. Coming out of this, how do you think Barstool Sports will be in a stronger position in the marketplace?
Way stronger. So, one is, right now you see big questions happening around why am I paying cable for live sports if I'm not getting live sports? So I think the first thing you're seeing in traditional media is the economic model and the product are being challenged because the product you're paying for doesn't exist. So I think contextually people are starting to question where their money is going to. I think the second thing is what you're seeing is it's like only the strong survive. And if your company, a lot of media companies don't have a lot to say right now, or they're saying all the same thing, which creates a commodity, like there's no differentiation. So I think we're really standing out as a company that has a lot to say, a lot of different things to say. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of personality. There's a lot of originality. And You're seeing us move to a more diverse revenue model, and you're seeing us really dig into commerce. You're seeing us dig into, different types of advertising. I think the infrastructure we're putting around those things are going to set us up to be very, very strong when we come out. Because frankly, Barstool's grown from 12 people to 250 people. We've grown from a under $5 million revenue company to $100+ million revenue company. So, we've had the benefit of growth, and now we're in a quarter that isn't going to have growth for anyone. In fact, it's going to have retraction. So we're building muscles that will actually accelerate our growth in the future. My hope and my plan is for that to accelerate growth in the future.
Yeah. And Erika, my last question for you is more of a personal one. And I should mention that you host a somewhat new podcast called Token CEO. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I know you're interested in leadership and talking about your role. What are you learning about your leadership style through this? And what about that might you take with you into the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm learning a lot. I like to connect with people. I really miss being in an office. I miss being with my team. Like I miss, I get some shit sometimes because I have like a very open door policy. Like anybody can come in, I'll talk to anyone really at any time. And I think, it's hard to do that when you're not together with people. So I've had to work harder to stay connected, whether it's phone. We use video conferencing in a way that we never used video conferencing. I use email and text a lot. So, I think there's a couple things that I'll be better at coming out of this, which is one, connecting with people virtually and staying connected virtually. Two is we put a lot of things in, a lot of productivity tracking in place at Barstool, where we're understanding what we're doing every single day at every hour of every day. And those are good things for me to understand of like, who's really, it's given me a look into our company where, instead of talking to 10 or 15 people every day, I'm now seeing what, 100+ people are doing every day. And that's given me a really good pulse on who are the movers and shakers inside our sales organization, inside our product organization, inside our finance organization, inside of our content team. So I feel that my visibility into who's making things happen and what I could do to make their jobs better, or what could I do to make them more successful and make us more successful. I think that level of visibility will also be something that I want to have more of when we come back.
I love that so much. Thank you, Erika Nardini, CEO of Barstool Sports. I really appreciate you joining me today and wishing you and your team the best of luck in the weeks ahead.
You too. Thank you for having us.
And to our viewers, meet me back here on Monday at noon Eastern time. We have a new issue of Adweek magazine coming out that day that we're going to be talking about. It's our Heroes issue. And we're looking at how brands are celebrating and supporting medical professionals at this time. So it's going to be a great episode on Monday. In the meantime, you all have a wonderful weekend.
From wherever we are
to everywhere you are,
we're Adweek Together.
Bringing you news, insights,
tips,
guidance, and community.
From Minneapolis, Minnesota,
to Portland, Oregon,
to Austin, Texas,
to Cleveland, Ohio,
from Connecticut
to New Jersey,
from sunny Florida
to right here in New York City.
The Adweek team is here for you.
Together.